My name is Jack, and for the past 5 years, my life with Claire has been perfect. We had built something beautiful together, something that felt unbreakable. Our love was passionate, but it was grounded in the kind of trust that took years to build. We had become a team, relying on each other in every way. I was confident that no matter what, she had my back, and I had hers. Our relationship was more than just physical attraction. It was based on deep emotional connection. Claire had always been thoughtful, loving, and incredibly loyal. I never doubted for a second that she would betray me. But all that changed one night when Claire came to me with an unusual suggestion. A suggestion that, at first, seemed innocent enough. "Jack," she said one evening, her voice full of a kind of excitement I hadn't heard before. "What would you think about trying something new with another man?" I stared at her, trying to process what she was saying. Her eyes were bright, full of anticipation, and she was nervously twirling her hair around her finger, a gesture that, in the past, had always signaled she was unsure about something. But this time, it felt different. "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to hide the sudden wave of anxiety that hit me. She looked at me, biting her lip. "I'm not saying we have to do it right away, but what if we tried a threesome? Just once. I thought it might be fun, and it could bring us closer." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This was my wife, the woman I trusted more than anyone. And now, she was asking me to consider inviting another man into our bed. At first, I was stunned, unsure of how to react. But Claire, being the woman she is, had always been bold, adventurous. Maybe I'd just never seen this side of her before. Perhaps it was just a fantasy she wanted to explore. I tried to convince myself that it was no big deal. Maybe it would be exciting. After all, we had always been open about our desires. But that night, as I lay awake in bed, something gnawed at me. Could she be hiding something more than just a desire for something new? I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this than she was letting on. Had she already been thinking about this for a while? Was this just the beginning of something that would change our lives forever? The idea of another man in our relationship haunted me. I tried to convince myself that it was just a suggestion, that it wasn't something that had already crossed her mind before. But deep down, I started to wonder, was this really about exploring new territory, or was there something darker at play? The next few days, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Every time I looked at Claire, I saw a glimmer of something in her eyes that I couldn't place. It was as if she was hiding something, a secret that she didn't want me to know. Every smile she gave me felt a little too forced, and every touch seemed like it had a hidden meaning. I wanted to trust her. I wanted to believe that this was just an innocent idea, something she wanted to try for fun. But my mind couldn't stop racing. What if she had already done this before? What if there was another man? The very thought of it sent chills down my spine. And so, I did what any man would do when faced with uncertainty. I began to keep an eye on her. I watched her every move, listened carefully to the tone in her voice, and paid attention to the little things she did that I'd never noticed before. The days after Claire's proposition were filled with a strange kind of tension. I tried to act normal, to go about my routine as if nothing had changed, but every conversation, every glance felt loaded with meaning. Every time I looked at her, there was a voice in the back of my mind whispering, "Is she already seeing someone else?" The seed of doubt, once planted, began to grow rapidly, and it was all I could focus on. Claire seemed to sense my unease, but she didn't say anything about it. She was acting just like her usual self, warm, affectionate, and loving. But the more she tried to reassure me with her sweet words and comforting touches, the more I questioned if I was being deceived. It didn't help that, recently, Claire had been spending more time away from home. She said it was work, but the late-night meetings and the sudden bursts of spontaneous outings started to feel like excuses. It's not like she had ever been untrustworthy before, but the situation had changed. I had never been this paranoid, but now every phone call, every text she received seemed suspicious. I couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something. One evening, after Claire had left for another one of her late meetings, I found myself in the living room staring at the clock. My mind raced with thoughts I couldn't control. I hated myself for even entertaining the idea, but I couldn't stop. I found myself standing up, walking toward her purse. My hand shook as I unzipped it, my heart pounding in my chest. I told myself I was just being paranoid, that I was overreacting. But there was a part of me that couldn't let go of the nagging thought that Claire had already made a decision I wasn't privy to. I fumbled through the contents of her purse, receipts, her wallet, a small makeup bag. And then, at the very bottom, I found it, a small, folded piece of paper. I pulled it out and opened it slowly, my mind racing with dread. It was a note. A simple typed note. Looking forward to our time together. I've missed you. Can't wait for the weekend. My stomach dropped. I didn't recognize the handwriting, and the note felt like a slap to my face. Who was this from? Who was she meeting? The words, "Can't wait for the weekend," made it sound like she was planning something. It wasn't a work-related meeting, not a friend. It was something else entirely. I felt my hands tremble as I crumpled the paper and shoved it back into her purse. My heart was pounding so hard in my chest I thought I might collapse. I needed answers. I needed to know if my wife, the woman I had trusted with everything, was lying to me. As I stood there, trying to calm myself down, I heard the sound of Claire's car pulling into the driveway. My breath caught in my throat. What was I supposed to do now? Should I confront her? Should I ask her where she had been? What would I even say? I didn't know what to do, but I couldn't let this go on any longer. The idea of her betraying me with someone else felt like a punch in the gut. She had always been so open with me. But now, I felt like she was hiding something from me, and I was terrified to find out the truth. I went back to the living room and pretended to relax as she walked through the door. Her smile, her kiss, everything felt like a facade. She kissed me softly on the lips, her usual warm present, but there was a new sense of distance between us that I couldn't ignore. "Hey, babe," Claire said, her voice light. "How was your day?" "Good," I muttered, avoiding her gaze. "How was yours?" Same old, she replied, throwing her purse on the couch and heading to the kitchen to make some tea. I sat there for a moment, the weight of the note heavy in my mind. I had to know if she was telling the truth, if there was something going on that I didn't understand. But I didn't know if I was ready to confront her. What if I was wrong? What if I destroyed everything by making a rash decision? But the truth was, I couldn't ignore what was happening inside of me. The doubt was eating me alive. I couldn't sleep that night. Claire was beside me, breathing softly in her sleep, but I couldn't stop thinking about the note, about the growing suspicion that something had already crossed the line. As I lay awake, I tried to piece everything together. The way she had suggested a threesome, it was too casual, too eager. The excitement in her voice, the way she kept mentioning how fun it would be, how it could bring us closer. Had it always been about someone else? Was this just her way of masking a deeper desire? Was she already seeing someone else? I wanted to confront her. I wanted to ask her about the note. But as I lay there in the dark, I realized that if I was right, if there was another man, everything I thought I knew about Claire, about our life together, would shatter. And I wasn't sure I was ready to face that. The days after that sleepless night felt like I was walking through a fog. I couldn't shake the unease, and no matter how much I tried to focus on my work or pretend everything was fine, I could feel the weight of suspicion pressing down on me. Claire, for her part, seemed completely unaware of the turmoil brewing inside me. She was still affectionate, still doing all the things that made her Claire. Sweet gestures, small surprises, even playful teasing. But every time she smiled, I couldn't help but wonder, what is she hiding from me? I started noticing more things. Small things, at first, but they piled up. There was the way she would look at her phone and quickly slide it face down whenever I walked into the room. Or how she'd suddenly need to take a shower or go for a walk whenever I mentioned spending time together. She was always running out of excuses. I need to check in with work. I forgot to call my mom. Or the classic, I need some time to unwind. I knew I was overthinking it. After all, I couldn't accuse her of anything based on these small signs. But that's what doubt does to a person. It consumes you, twists everything out of proportion. Suddenly, every little action seemed like a clue in a mystery I wasn't equipped to solve. But one evening, things escalated. Claire had told me she was going to meet a friend for dinner, some old colleague of hers who I'd never met. I didn't think much of it. She'd done this before, meeting friends for drinks, for dinner, catching up. But tonight, something felt different. I watched as Claire got ready. She spent longer than usual in front of the mirror, fussing with her hair and makeup. She put on a dress I hadn't seen before, a tight, red number that hugged her body in a way that made my stomach twist. She was beautiful, of course, she always was. But tonight, something about her felt distant, like she wasn't doing this for me. "Where are you going again?" I asked, trying to sound casual, but I could hear the edge in my own voice. "Oh, just dinner with a colleague," she replied, grabbing her purse and giving me a quick kiss on the cheek. "I'll be back late." I watched her leave, my mind racing. I told myself to trust her, to let it go. But I couldn't. Something about the way she left, the way she seemed in such a hurry, made me feel like I was being lied to. I didn't want to be that guy, the one who spies on his wife. But that night, I couldn't help myself. I found myself standing by the front window, watching her car disappear down the street. And then, without thinking, I grabbed my phone. The idea of tracking her wasn't something I had ever considered before. I hated the thought of invading her privacy, but the note, the secrecy, the way she was acting, it was all too much. I had to know if she was seeing someone else. I just had to know. I opened my phone, went to her shared calendar, something we had set up when we first got together to keep track of appointments, meetings, and trips. I scrolled down, looking for anything out of the ordinary. That's when I saw it. A note on the calendar for that night. Private meeting, 8 p.m. No details. No mention of a colleague or friend. Just that vague entry. My heart sank. If she was meeting a friend, why wouldn't she just tell me? Why was she hiding the specifics? I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my jacket and rushed out the door, heading toward the restaurant where Claire was supposed to be. I knew it was a terrible idea, but the impulse was too strong. I told myself it was the only way to clear my mind. If I saw her there with a friend, I would feel stupid and relieved. But if she was with someone else, I didn't know what I would do. The restaurant wasn't far from our house, so it only took me about 10 minutes to get there. I parked a few streets away and walked the rest of the way, trying to steady my breathing. I told myself this wasn't about spying, that I wasn't some jealous fool. I was just trying to get the truth. When I arrived, I stood across the street for a moment, watching the entrance. I saw Claire's car parked nearby. My heart thudded in my chest as I waited for her to emerge. After a few minutes, she did, walking arm in arm with someone. The man was tall, with dark hair and a lean build. They were laughing together, as though they had known each other for years. My stomach twisted as I watched them. Claire looked genuinely happy, and the man, whoever he was clearly enjoying her company. They stood close, too close for comfort. Her body language was open and relaxed. She wasn't acting like she did when she was with me, when it was just the two of us. I couldn't bring myself to approach them. I stayed hidden, my heart racing in my chest. I felt like an intruder in my own life. Claire hadn't noticed me yet, but I had seen enough. I had seen enough to know that something was going on. Something that didn't involve me. They entered the restaurant, and I felt like I was paralyzed, stuck on the sidewalk. I wanted to run to them, confront them, but something held me back. The truth was too much to bear. As I stood there, frozen in place, I realized one undeniable thing. I had just witnessed the beginning of the end. Claire had betrayed me, and I wasn't sure I would ever be able to forgive her. When I got home that night, I didn't even turn on the lights. I sat in the dark. The image of Claire walking arm in arm with that man burned into my brain like a scar I couldn't scrub away. I must have sat there for hours, phone in my hand, heart in my throat, staring into nothing, unable to even cry. Just numb. Hollow. She came back just after midnight. I heard the soft click of the front door, her heels tapping against the hardwood as she walked in, humming some melody that made my skin crawl. I watched from the living room shadows as she took off her coat, tossed her purse onto the kitchen counter, and made her way to the stairs like everything was normal. Like she hadn't just lied to my face. I stood up, and the sound of the couch shifting must have startled her. "Oh my God, you scared me," she said, flicking on the light. We locked eyes, and for a split second, something passed across her face. Guilt? Shock? Maybe fear. It was gone before I could name it. "I thought you'd be asleep," she said, trying to sound light, casual. "Why are you sitting in the dark?" I didn't answer. She moved toward me, and that's when I said it. "Who was he?" Claire froze. That fake smile disappeared instantly. The air in the room turned heavy, and for a long moment, neither of us spoke. She blinked, swallowed. "What are you talking about?" "Don't," I said, my voice low and tight. "Please, Claire. Don't insult me. I saw you." "You saw me?" she repeated, eyes narrowing slightly. "You followed me? I had to know. And now I do." She opened her mouth, then closed it. I could see her struggling, trying to decide whether to double down or admit what she didn't want to. "Is this about what I asked you the other night?" she asked, changing course. "Because if it is, we don't have to talk about it anymore. Forget I said anything." "No, Claire. We're going to talk about it," I snapped. "You wanted to bring another man into our bedroom, and now I find you with another man on a night you said was just dinner with a colleague. You didn't even try to lie properly." Her eyes welled up suddenly, catching me off guard. She didn't cry often. Claire was usually too composed, too self-controlled. But now, her bottom lip quivered. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she said. My chest tightened. "Then why did you?" I whispered. She sat down slowly on the edge of the couch. Her hands were shaking. Her voice was quiet. "He was someone I used to know before you. Back in college. His name's Drew." "Drew," I repeated, the name bitter in my mouth. "And why is Drew suddenly back in your life?" She hesitated. "Because I reached out to him." And there it was. The kind of sentence that cuts through you like ice water. "You what?" "I didn't mean for it to go this far. I started thinking about things. About us. About how we've been married for 5 years, and everything feels routine. Predictable." My hands were clenched. My knuckles white. "So you decided to spice things up by inviting me into a threesome with him?" "No," she said, panicked. "I wasn't going to bring him. I swear. That wasn't the plan." I stared at her. "So what was the plan, Claire?" She covered her face with her hands. "I don't know. I guess I wanted to feel something again. Something new. It started with messages, then calls, then we met up once, then again, and then it just got complicated. You cheated. She didn't say anything. That silence was louder than any scream. I leaned forward, the hurt bubbling beneath my skin like acid. Why didn't you come to me, Claire? If you were unhappy, if you were bored, why him? Why not talk to me? I tried, she whispered. You didn't hear me. What are you talking about? I did everything for you. I supported your career. I've made space for your ambitions. You stopped seeing me, she shouted suddenly, eyes blazing. You were always present, but never really there. You stopped touching me like you used to. Stopped looking at me like you did when we first met. You became safe. Safe? I repeated, stunned. Isn't that what a marriage is supposed to be? She laughed bitterly through her tears. No. It's supposed to be alive. That shut me up. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This woman, the one I loved more than anything, was now standing in front of me, telling me that the security and trust one built was somehow the problem. So you wanted to blow it all up because I stopped looking at you the right way? No, it wasn't just that, she said. It was the pressure, the silence, the routine. I didn't mean to hurt you. But somewhere along the line, I stopped feeling like your wife and started feeling like your roommate. The words hurt. But worse was the realization that I hadn't even noticed she'd felt this way. I thought everything was fine. I thought we were strong. Clearly, I'd been wrong. I stood, trying to make sense of it all. So what now? I asked her. Are you in love with him? She shook her head quickly. No. No. I swear. He's just a fantasy. An escape. And what about me, Claire? What am I now? Your reality. She didn't answer. I walked to the kitchen, pacing, hands trembling. I could feel something crumbling inside me. Not just anger. Not just betrayal. But a deep, aching sadness. You destroyed something beautiful, I said finally. And for what? A thrill? A moment of feeling alive? She stood behind me in silence, then said in a voice barely above a whisper, I just wanted us to feel real again. Real. That word echoed in my head long after she went upstairs. That night, I didn't sleep. Again. Only this time, the numbness was gone, replaced by a storm of emotions I couldn't contain. I didn't know what would happen next, but one thing was clear. Whatever marriage we had, it would never be the same. The days that followed were the kind you survive, not live. Claire and I stopped pretending. There were no morning kisses, no shared coffee, no small talk. Just silence, thick, loaded, punishing. She moved through the house like a ghost, and I found myself avoiding rooms she was in. When we did cross paths, our eyes would meet for a moment too long, filled with everything we weren't saying. And yet, neither of us left. We were orbiting each other, wounded planets spinning around a broken sun. I thought about leaving. More than once. I even packed a bag the night after she confessed. But I couldn't walk out the door. Not because I forgave her, I didn't, but because I needed answers. Closure. Some kind of reckoning before the chapter closed. So I stayed. And one rainy Wednesday morning, the reckoning began. Claire broke the silence over toast and eggs. She hadn't cooked in a week, but that morning I came down and found the table set, her in her robe, acting like nothing had happened. Like we were still the couple we used to be. Can we talk? She asked softly. I didn't sit. I just stared at her, arms crossed. I've already heard enough, Claire. No, she said, pushing the plate aside. You haven't. There was a steadiness to her now that made me nervous. She wasn't panicked like before. She looked ready. Like she'd been rehearsing this. I need to tell you the truth, she began. All of it. My stomach turned. Wasn't that what you told me the other night? I asked coldly. She shook her head. No. That was the guilt version. Filtered. I owe you the real version. I sat against my better judgment. Something in her tone, maybe the finality of it, told me I needed to hear this. I didn't just run into Drew by accident, she said. I sought him out months ago. My chest tightened. I knew something was changing in me, she continued. I felt like I was fading. I couldn't explain it at the time, but everything in our life felt muted. I kept thinking about who I used to be. Before the house, before the routines. Before I started measuring life in grocery lists and calendar invites. Her voice cracked slightly. I was scrolling Instagram one night, and I saw him. Drew. His life looked so free, traveling, art, galleries, whiskey tastings, that same stupid leather jacket he used to wear. I remembered how I felt when I was with him. Not safe, but electric. I clenched my jaw. And that's what you wanted? I asked. Electric? I wanted to feel, James. Not just function. I messaged him. We caught up. And when he was back in town for that conference, we got drinks. I didn't speak. I couldn't. We kissed that night. A beat. Then another. I didn't sleep with him, she added quickly. Not that night. I scoffed. So what? You want credit for delayed betrayal? Her eyes welled again, but she pressed on. I told myself it would stop. That it was a stupid spark, and I'd never see him again. But then we kept texting. Secretly. And I started wanting things I hadn't let myself want in years. My blood boiled. So you wanted him? She shook her head. No. I wanted me. The me I was when I was 25 and reckless and hopeful and messy and alive. He just reminded me of her. She wiped her eyes. Then I made the biggest mistake of my life. I brought that poison into our marriage. I didn't know how to ask for what I needed, so I wrapped it in sex. I thought if we tried something new, something bold, we could reignite us. I stood furious. You don't fix a marriage by burning it to the ground. I know, she whispered. I know that now. I paced the kitchen, fists clenched. My mind was spinning, trying to reconcile the woman I married with the woman in front of me, the woman who plotted her emotional escape in silence, while smiling across dinner tables and kissing me goodnight. You say you didn't sleep with him that first night, I said. Did you ever? She hesitated. Too long. My heart stopped. Yes, she whispered. Once. The word landed like a bullet. When? I asked. A month ago. Before I asked about the threesome. I felt sick. You asked me to open our marriage after you closed it with someone else? She didn't defend it. She didn't cry. She just nodded, like she'd finally stopped lying to herself too. I thought if we explored something new together, maybe we could bury what I'd done. I didn't want to hurt you. I just didn't want to lose myself either. You lost me, I said, voice cracking. That was the first time I cried. Not loud. Not messy. Just one tear down my cheek that I didn't bother to wipe. She looked like she was breaking too. I love you, she said. Even now. I love you so much it hurts. I laughed, bitter and hollow. You don't betray the people you love, Claire. You don't make them feel insane for noticing the shift. You don't lie with a straight face and then ask them to share you like it's some generous offer. She stood slowly. Then tell me what you want, she said. Do you want me to leave? I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw a woman unraveling. Did I want her to leave? Yes. No. I didn't know. I want you to hurt the way I'm hurting, I said. She nodded, eyes glassy. I already do. That night, we slept in separate rooms. Not because we fought, but because we couldn't bear the closeness. The air between us was so thick with pain, it might as well have been a wall. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering how many versions of Claire I'd never met. How many secrets live in the silence between two people who stopped being curious about each other. And the worst part? I still loved her. But love wasn't enough anymore. Love isn't always what keeps people together. Sometimes, it's just the illusion of time invested, the weight of shared memories, the fear of starting over. And sometimes, it's the hope that what's broken can still be rebuilt. I didn't know which one was keeping me from leaving. It had been 2 weeks since Claire confessed everything. Since she stood in the kitchen, voice trembling, and admitted to sleeping with Drew. 2 weeks of sleeping apart. 2 weeks of walking on shattered glass, bleeding inside my own home. We didn't yell anymore. There was nothing left to scream. Just silence, cold and final. But I wasn't gone. Not yet. I tried to hate her. God knows I tried. I replayed her lies in my head like a movie I didn't want to watch but couldn't look away from. I pictured them together, in some anonymous hotel room, her fingers tangled in his shirt, his hands on her body, her mouth whispering things that used to belong to me. That used to be ours. It made me sick. And yet, every time I packed a bag, I found myself sitting on the edge of the bed instead, hands frozen, thinking about our wedding, our road trips, our late-night laughs, the way she used to fall asleep on my chest during thunderstorms. Grief is cruel like that. It reminds you of the good when you're drowning in the worst. Claire suggested therapy. I said no at first. Flat out. Then I said yes. Not because I believed it would fix us, but because I needed help understanding how we got here. How a woman who once cried at my proposal could end up in someone else's bed while I folded laundry and planned vacations. We went to the first session like two strangers sitting in the same waiting room. No holding hands. No eye contact. Just tension and forced politeness. The therapist, an older black woman named Miriam with kind eyes and an unshakable calm, let us sit in silence for the first few minutes. Then she asked one question. "Why are you here?" Claire looked at me. I looked at the wall. "I don't know anymore," I said honestly. "Maybe to understand why someone who says they love me could lie for months. Maybe to find a reason to stay, or permission to go." Claire took a breath. "I'm here to earn forgiveness," she said quietly. "Or to figure out if I even deserve it." The session was raw. Honest in ways we hadn't dared to be alone. She talked about the ache she'd felt for years, about craving something beyond routine. I talked about how betrayed I felt, not just by her actions, but by the deception, the months of emotional infidelity she packaged as curiosity. Miriam listened, nodded, asked questions that cut deeper than I expected. "Do you still love her?" she asked me. I didn't answer right away. "I do," I said finally. "But I don't trust her. And I don't know if I ever will again," Claire cried then. Silent tears. The kind that don't ask for pity. In the days that followed, I started seeing a therapist on my own. I needed space, not just from Claire, but from us. From the echo chamber of pain I'd been living in. I moved into the guest room permanently. Stopped checking her phone. Stopped asking her where she was going or who she was texting. If I stayed, it had to be a choice. Not a trap. Not fear of starting over. One night, I came home late from a session, and she was sitting on the porch with 2 glasses of wine. My wine, the one I liked with grilled salmon. She didn't say anything, just nodded toward the empty chair beside her. I sat. We drank in silence. Then she said, "Drew messaged me again." My pulse quickened. "What did he say?" "He wanted to talk." said he missed me, and I blocked him. I turned to look at her. She wasn't lying. I could tell. Why are you telling me this? Because I don't want any more secrets, she said. And because I wanted you to know that I choose us, even if you don't choose me back. I didn't say anything. I just took another sip of wine. A few days later, she handed me a letter. Said she wrote it after therapy. Asked me to read it in private. I waited until midnight. Then opened it. James, there is no version of this story where I come out clean. I broke something beautiful, and I may never be able to fix it. You didn't deserve any of it. Not the silence, not the lies, not the moment I gave part of myself to someone else. I've tried to figure out when I stopped being whole inside this marriage, but the truth is, I never told you when the cracks began to show. That was my first betrayal. The second was not believing that what we had could be enough. I don't expect forgiveness, but I do hope for it. And more than that, I hope you remember who we were. Before the hurt. Before the lies. Before I gave in to weakness and selfishness. I hope you remember that I still see you as the man who made me believe in forever. And even if we don't make it, I'll never stop loving you. Claire. I didn't cry, but I felt something loosen in my chest, a knot I didn't know I'd been carrying. Weeks passed. Then one morning, I woke up and knew what I had to do. I walked into the kitchen. Claire was making eggs. She turned, startled by my presence. We hadn't had breakfast together in nearly a month. I want to talk, I said. She nodded, nervous. I sat across from her. I don't know if I'll ever stop resenting what you did, I said. Some days I feel like I've aged 10 years from this. Like I've become someone else entirely. She looked down, ashamed. But, I continued, I don't want to throw away 5 years of love over 1 year of lies. If you're really willing to rebuild from zero, not pretend it didn't happen, but truly start over, I'm willing to try. Her eyes widened. You are? I nodded slowly. But it's going to be hard. Brutal, even. Trust isn't just going to snap back. It's going to take time. And work. From both of us. Tears streamed down her cheeks. I'll do anything, James. Anything. I stood, walked over to her, and took her hand. I believe you, I whispered. Let's see if belief is enough. 1 year later. We're still together. We still go to therapy, separately and together. We still have hard days. Still moments where the past tries to claw its way into the present. But we've learned to name our fears, to speak honestly, to hold each other accountable without weaponizing guilt. And slowly, painfully, we're healing. Do I trust her fully? Not yet. Do I love her? Still. Maybe even more now. Because this version of love is scarred and real and earned through fire. And that, somehow, feels stronger than what we had before. Not perfect, but real.